Hey, what's going on, everybody? Don't get too confused here. This isn't that difficult. It's really very basic, and a couple people wanted me to put together a breathing pattern video. But what I've done is I just summarized everything in the sense of the fours and the force, and how the brainwave patterns link up with the directions that link up with the um, breathing patterns that link up with the seasons. So I've put it all here together, but it's quite simple. And the only thing you really need to know is the M's and the N's, which are the mouth and the nose. So when you're doing a mouth-mouth breathing, for instance, you're putting yourself in a beta brainwave. You do a mouth and nose, breathe in the mouth, and out of the nose, you're breathing into an alpha brainwave. So what you can do is you can get into any of these brainwave states that you'd like. And by doing them in a circle, in the way that it is here clockwise, starting with the beta brainwave, by going in a circle and completing it on the beta, you'll get yourself into gamma. And a gamma brainwave, not a lot of people have really studied, but it seems to be a heightened sense, and it seems to be a cleansing um, property. It opens up and releases charges in your system by going through an entire brainwave pattern, as I've spoke about in other videos. Each one of these patterns of brainwaves were connected to trigger points in your body that have stored memories and charges. So by going back into these certain brain waves, you can release patterns of information and release uh, codes in your body to get rid of memory that you don't require, that is basically stored up in your system. So without getting too far into the details of what's going on, the idea here is to do a circular breathing pattern: mouth mouth, mouth nose, nose nose, and then nose mouth, and then back to the mouth mouth. And by going through that, you'll start to get into a gamma brainwave, and you can do that cycle as many times as you need, and you'll get into a really nice state. And I'll go a little farther into what I've done here and how I've labeled things. So if you see, the mouth mouth breath is connected to the winter. It's also connected to the north, so that makes a lot of sense to people. See, the summer is where you'd think of the south. You'd go south to the heat, and the ideas here are connected to the four elements, which again in the summer is fire, and the earth being the winter, and the west being the water, and the east being the air. Now those are connected to the brain waves, as well as the mudras. And you see the green where I have the index, middle, pinky, and ring. Now those are the mudras, and those are your four fingers. So each one of your fingers is connected to a direction, a brainwave, an element, and even your DNA coding. So if you were to connect your thumb with your middle finger, you'd be into a alpha brainwave, and by just starting with that, you're already connecting your thumb, and each one of your fingers is a positive or a negative pole, correct? So you're connecting with that, and so you're already starting to get in that type of brainwave, and you can increase that brainwave and get there by using the breathing pattern associated with that. So you'd use a nose mouth breathing. And now you can go further with this. I think there's quite a bit to be said about why there's four walls in your room. You could have four colors on your walls, and you could have the four directions, and you could be in that direction, because certainly the North Pole and the magnetism of what is at the North Pole, beyond just yourself being the North Pole itself, there's magnetism that's attracted there. So by putting your body in a certain position, you're actually doing something. You're actually participating with some obvious force that occurs in nature. Now, that those obvious forces are electromagnetism, and that obvious force is something to do with the moon and something to do with the sun, and certainly whatever it is the aurora borealis and what's in the north. So that goes much deeper, and these are things you don't really need to be concerned with right off the bat. All you need to be concerned with is breathing in the correct way, to breathe in these patterns, to get yourself into certain brainwaves when you want to go to sleep, when you want to relax. And now you can see it this way. It's as I was explaining in another video, you're breathing either upwards by pulling energy out of what's down, or you're breathing down to take energy out of something that's upward. So for instance, if you wanted to go to sleep, you want to go fall down into sleep. So to fall down into sleep, you would you would use your nose mouth breathing. So you can see it on the right side of the on the right side of the page. The element of water falls. So if you think of waterfalls, and you think of um, the fall, so this connected the fall in water, and think of it in the terms of if you breathe in the nose, you're breathing something up and then out of the mouth, so it's pulling energy down. So it's all connected. You think of air as rising. Now look on the other side. You have an alpha and a spring breath. So you breathe in your mouth and then out of your nose. And now that's pulling energy up. So it's rising. Now you think of the hottest element. You think of fire and you think of the summer. Well, that's nose. You're bringing all the energy up and it's keeping it up there by breathing in and out of your nose. Now, if you wanted to be completely in a beta brainwave, where the winter is, think about being cold in the winter, and you think of the north as cold because you go the farther north you go, the colder it gets. The element would be earth, and the breathing would be down. It'd be completely down, mouth. It'd be like hibernation. So these are all bound together, and you can even now when you look at a deck of cards, you can look at the deck of cards differently as what the heart means, the heart of fire, and the winter being the spade, the spring being diamonds, and the clubs being in the fall. So there's a connection to all of those things. And obviously the 52 weeks in a year and the 52 cards in a deck. So it's all already coded out for you. And I'm going to go deeper on this later. I'll put this out here for everybody. I think I'm going to be doing a really interesting new tarot deck. I'm going to design and build out a tarot deck that's going to blow everyone's minds because we're going to change the coding of reality with it. But here with these breathing patterns for now, let me just go a little bit farther here. So we see the connection between the beta breath, the winter, the north, the mouth breathing, the index finger, so that's your mudra, and the earth. And then you see the CAT and G. Now those are your 4 DNA codings. So this is actually about recoding and unlocking codes in your DNA. If they say you have junk DNA, well, maybe you have junk DNA because your entire life you've been breathing the same way. So you haven't unlocked different brain waves and different codings in your body. So now by working with these different breaths and changing the rate at which you breathe these things, whether it's fast, medium, or slow, you're accessing different brain waves, different speeds, different harmonics. And now this is going to unlock and release things in your body. And we even think of it in the most basic level of whenever we breathe, we're putting more oxygen in our body, which breaks down something. It oxygenates your body, excuse me. So you oxidize things and get rid of things. And at the same time, oxygen is also a fuel. It's something that burns something off and gets something out of your body whenever you're trying to heal and get rid of something. And it's also the fuel to make something happen. So it has 2 purposes. And by breathing at different rates of speed, you're actually accessing different tones and harmonics in your body and different patterns. So if your brain is on a certain frequency, say you're breathing within the theta range, but that pattern changes a little bit based upon whether you're doing it in a fast way, a medium way, or a slow way, or anything in between. Now you're accessing different memories in your body, different stored up charges that you might have been putting in your body 10 years ago. So you're doing a fast, you're on day 10, and you're breathing in maybe that 10 years ago, you were breathing in a pattern, you were angry, and you're looking at the TV and you're eating some Doritos. Now that breathing pattern has put a brainwave pattern in your body that is now connected to whatever food you're eating, now stored up in a molecule in your body. And now all of a sudden, in reverse, you're in a fast on day 10 and you're going through breathing patterns and you're able to unlock and release stored up memory charge. So that's a little more advanced. I mean, you don't really need to know exactly specifically how it works. I mean, if you'd like to, we can do that in the future, and I can show you a little deeper. But right now, what we need to be concerned with is just the breathing patterns. And you can always refer back to this so you have a little bit more of an idea. And as you can see over there on the left side of the page, if you're not familiar, the pyramids were built as a mimicry of the human mind, of the human brain. If anybody wants to get into that, do a little research on the king's chamber and the human skull, and you can see some very interesting things there. So let's go through one breathing pattern here. What I'll do is I'll turn a little bit of music on and see if you guys want to go through one quick cycle of breath, and I'll do another video with just the breath on it. So here we go. Hold on, guys. Okay, so the basic things here is to put we'll start with the mouth, and what we want to do is we can use any one of these mudras that we'd like, but let's just start by putting ourselves in the most basic mudra with your fingers. So you take your thumb and put it next to your index finger. And so now you're in a beta breath. Now this would be something you'd want to do maybe getting to sleep. But if we wanted to right now, depending on the time of day, you could connect with a theta wave. So you'd be a little closer to putting your body in a theta breath. This would be the most popular mudra that you see in all the statues. It would be your ring finger, and it's the most comfortable for it. So let's just start with that. Everybody put their thumb and their ring finger next to each other, and you've made a little mudra. And we'll go through this breathing pattern. So it's mouth, and we'll do it at a medium pace. Breathe in your mouth, out of your mouth, in your mouth, out of your nose, in your nose, out of your nose, in your nose, out of your mouth, in your mouth, out of your mouth. So that's one time through. Now you'd probably want to do that 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, who knows? But you see that your body is completely changed. Your brain feels a little different. Now, by doing that more and more, you link up and you harmonize. You entrain yourself. Think about entrainment. See, I like to give all the information first so you have an idea of what's going on. That way, you're not being entrained like you are on a television by something that you don't want to be. So that way, whenever you see these things, and as you'll notice throughout my videos, I explain how it all works. So that way, you're not anchored to something that you don't want to be. So this way you can look at a television and understand what it's doing and not get caught up in its theta waves or its whatever brainwave programming they're putting you into, because you'll start to notice your breathing pattern changes because they've done that. They've put that within the system. They've entrained you. You watch people that are breathing when they're eating, or you watch people when they're breathing and watching TV, and it changes what they're doing. They have a point of focus. That television becomes the monad. That television becomes the fireplace. That television becomes the thing that they're focused on, and their breathing pattern goes into probably a mouth breathing. So now all of a sudden they're in this beta brainwave. Or depending on the type of person, they might change their brainwave. Now, if you know that that's what's happening, you change your brainwave. Now you're outside of that mind control. You're outside of that zombie nature. You're outside of that entrainment that's going on, that hypnosis. Now you can change your breathing pattern while it's happening. And you could, while you're in a room and other people are watching the television, being trained by something, you can get right outside of that. And you could get them outside of that. So, and you can also, now that you know how this works, you entrain yourself. And then as you're doing this goes back into all of the other magic. Whenever you make a sigil or a symbol, so you make that sigil, now you get into a certain brainwave, and you have all of these things. This is why you have an altar, because you're altering your consciousness, you're altering reality. And this is such high-tech, in-depth stuff that I'm connecting for you here between the breathing and the magic. See, most people won't tell you about this because they don't know about this. They just go and look at something, you have these basic concepts of the law of attraction, and yeah, you look at this and you focus on this. Yeah, that's all well and good, and that's one aspect to it. But when you really connect all these things together to see what's really going on, and you don't just get into this um, altered state, which is fine, you alter a state, but if you don't know what it is and you don't know what you're accessing, then you're still outside of the loop of what's going on. But now you understand what the reality of lighting those candles is, and you understand the reality of why you bring water into your circle. But now the next level up, even higher, is then all of a sudden, oh, you want to access something to do with the fire. You want to access something to do with the summertime. You want to access something that deals with the theta brain waves, and then you can change your breathing patterns to get into that state while you're working on a meditation and manifestation. So now, as this starts to unravel for you, you can go and look at all my other videos and see, like, oh, wow, that's how it all works together. And now you start making your sigils, you start making your monads, you start making your calendar. And your focus and your brain wave, as you get into this, as you go into circular breathing, you get into a gamma wave, and you can really start producing and creating and pushing out a reality. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Any questions, put them below, and we'll dig deeper a little into this if y'all want. Cheers, everybody.